Welcome to We Need to Talk Now, presented by AT&T. And I am here with Erica, Ayala, and it is a late night live version of We Need to Talk Now. Erica, thank you so much for being with us and for staying up.
Hey, luckily you caught me while I was on Tulsa time, so it's not super late for me, but we gonna get it done, and then I'll be able to go directly into watching the newest episode of 1923 on Paramount Plus. So it's really a win-win.
It's definitely a win-win. It's not too late here either. I'm on the West Coast, so it's not nearly as late as some people who are up right now. And I just want to thank everybody who is here on this live for watching and for staying up. We had 2 amazing days of games, and we're going to talk all about them. But first, we need you to subscribe, because when we have shows like this, you're not going to know about them unless you subscribe. See all of this down here, all of these handles. Make sure that you tap in and follow those as well, because when we go live, you won't get the alert. You won't be able to know what's going on, and you won't be here for these amazing shows, especially the late night version. So go ahead, like, comment, subscribe, do all the things to make sure that you're connected. And we're on your favorite podcast platform. So, I don't know why you wouldn't want to look at us on YouTube, but just in case you don't, go to your favorite platform and make sure that you are following us on there too. And hit this right here, this QR code. It's going to get you everywhere that you need to be so that you can be connected with us right here on We Need to Talk Now, presented by AT&T. So tap in, because we're going to have some amazing conversations. And we're also going to be live from the Final Four. So definitely make sure that you're tapped in, because those shows are going to be fired too. Now, let's start off with this show. I mean, can you believe all of these games? I mean, it has been phenomenal. And we're going to talk about some big winners. But before we do, while her team did not win, we want to start off with a shout out to Murray State's Caitlin Young. She is a phenomenal player that we really didn't talk a lot about this year. And we should have, because, she's been balling, and she was balling. This was Young's first NCAA tournament appearance this year, rather, and Murray State's first since 2008. And during this game, she moved up to number 14 on the NCAA D1 all-time scoring list, passing Tennessee's Shamika Holtzclaw. So that is huge. And then finishes her career with 3,029 points. And unfortunately, she was injured in the second half of the game that she played in. But we just had to give her a shout out, because that is a huge accomplishment. She had an amazing career. And hats off to you, Caitlin Young.
Indeed. Also became second Murray State student athlete with 2,000 points and 1,000 rebounds. Popeye Jones, who also had some time in the NBA, was the only other player to do that. So, just making history. Becky Hammond, mid-major player to watch list, excuse me. So I love it. I almost said stick taps, because I'm still sometimes in hockey mode, but that's what we say in hockey. So I feel like it'll fit here. Stick taps to you. And what's with the name Caitlin in women's basketball? That's how you know you're a baller.
Yo, it's everywhere. It's everywhere.
Right? All the spellings.
It's definitely everywhere. Now, all the spellings, all the different ways, but we're here for it. So, and especially right now, we're here for Caitlin Young. So we just want to give you a shout for sure. Now, listen, we're going to get into these biggest winners. We're going to look at all of these teams and get into this conversation. But what I want to know is, how is your bracket going, Erica?
Okay, you know what? I got a confession to make. I don't usually really do brackets. I really don't. I get too much anxiety. I am a recovering perfectionist, and the first and second round, I feel like it gives me that bad stress. I do love chaos, and we are gonna get chaos, but I just don't like the stress. I'm like, oh, I don't know, it's too much. So I usually don't. I usually don't have a bracket. I have concepts of a bracket, but not an official bracket.
I get it. I get it on every level. And people always want to scrutinize what you do. We posted Lisa Leslie's Right. We posted Lisa Leslie's bracket and people were coming for her on Instagram. And I'm just like, let her live. Let her live.
Like we're not gonna
She
get it right all
did
the
a great
time.
right. But she had a great bracket. And of course, she picked USC to win the whole thing, but she played there. So I totally understand. And I think people should too.
Right.
A little bit, a little bit, a little bit. However, I know that all of you have your brackets. Please drop in the chat how yours are doing. We want to know. Things have been running pretty much as they should based on the numbers. There's been a few upsets, but people don't always do it. They don't always have chalky brackets. So let us know how your brackets are doing, and we'll talk about that a little bit later. We also are going to have a question and answer session, later. So drop those questions down there too. So Emma, our producer, who is also up late, can get some of those out here so we can answer them. But as for now, we are going to talk about the number one seeds who definitely took care of business. There was a lot of scoring going on with these number one seeds, but I just want to say off top, who looked the weakest to you out of the number one seeds? That's kind of weakest is a hard thing to say.
That's tough. That's
who
tough.
would it be?
I mean, okay, so it's probably going to be, USC. It's probably going to be USC.
Yeah.
I mean, they did get a win. So a win is a win is a win at this time, right? Maybe a little bit of a injury scare. We'll talk about that. But I just think that there's a lot of expectation with this USC team. They've been able to meet a decent amount of that expectation, mostly because of what JuJu has been able to do. And for me, there's still more that they have to be able to figure out as a team. I'm still a little bit concerned that if either JuJu or Kiki have an off night, then that could undo a lot of what we were able to see with this USC team. And I think that there is a version that exists where they can overcome that. But I have questions. I have some questions.
Yeah, there's definitely a lot of questions, and I would agree with you. They would be my pick to be the weakest team. I wouldn't say by a lot, though, after they kind of got that initial kind of like dust off that started at the beginning of the game. They were pretty much, firing on really good cylinders. I wouldn't say all of them, but really good ones. And I do think, though, when you look at the depth of the other number ones that are there, and actually not even just the number ones, a lot of teams that are playing in this tournament, you have to have more than Kiki and JuJu.
Yeah.
You have to have more than that. And so also, obviously their scoring was not great. And I don't think they're going to have another night like that per se. I would hope not, but they have to make sure that they don't moving forward, because it's not just a UConn that they have to be worried about. It's not just the rest of the number ones that they have to be worried about. It's the next opponent, period.
Exactly.
So, yeah. So I would agree with you. Now, when you look at the, first round in total, what would you say, like 1 to 10 on the excitement scale? How would you rate it?
Ooh, I honestly was thinking of it more in like how I would rank it among snacks. So if I had to then recalculate, like I was like, this is a little bit of like a trail mix, like a trail mix could be popping, but sometimes a trail mix is just going to get you to that next meal. You feel me? So it's like,
right,
you're not really going to give it like a 7, 8, 9, 10, but it's not a 1, 2, 3 either. So I feel like we're like middle. I'm saying like a 5 or 6, like, cause we did get some interesting matchups. We saw some people, we already talked about Caitlin, right? Some people did ball out even if their team didn't advance, or, were able to cap off a pretty good season with, as whatever they could do. And sometimes you see teams, also fall flat. I mean, ooh, child, that Cal game was a little tough. That was a little tough.
It was tough. As somebody who has lived in the Bay Area for many, many years, it was tough for me to watch because they had such a stellar season.
Right.
They had such a stellar season, and I was expecting so much more.
the lid was on the hoop. The lid, then they put the rock on the lid, then they got the cement, like nothing was falling. And then I felt over time that was impacting the confidence and decision making. I don't think that they liked some of the calls that they were getting, so you know, so I would say it's middle of the road. I'd probably give it like a 6 because again, there were some things that were exciting. There were some things that were like, dang, like y'all just ran out of gas. So I think that the best is certainly yet to come. And then again, at the top level, we had multiple programs get to hundo, right? So just scoring, some folks they hit everything and then some.
Right. I don't know. My excitement level, I was going to say, is around, I was going to say 6, but I don't want to say exactly what you said. So I'll say a 6.5.
Okay. Right.
Just because.
You got that fancy trail mix. I see.
A little bit, that some trail mixes don't taste right. You know what I'm saying? So this one was that good spicy, had a little seasoning on it.
Okay, they give you a little, like a little chickpea curry, something.
Yeah, a little out the box. But I think it's more because I was excited about what I saw going into the next round. I just feel like we have so many amazing teams in this. Yes, there was some high scoring games. I understand that, and a lot of things shook out the way that they were seeded. But I just think it's going to just go crazy in this next round. I see many more upsets, and I can't wait to watch the next round. It got me kind of set up for that.
Yeah, I think because also I think what we also saw, and I feel like I was alluding to it, but some teams obviously did not advance, but they were, whether it was senior days or just like a certain way a team wanted to play, or like, listen, you going up a team where it's like, listen, we got to play this team. Let's at least play how we want to play. And I think that's admirable, right? You go out and play your game. And I think you can also look to Notre Dame, who did that. Notre Dame did not come into this tournament the way they wanted to. I think they'd be the first team to tell you that, right?
Yeah.
And so while they were focused on getting a win, there were also other elements. And I think that there's some teams, UCLA is a team also we didn't talk too much about, but I think there were other elements and things that some teams, they weren't banking on being able to experiment, but if the game gave them that opportunity, they were going to open up things to get them ready for round 2, because I do think that, round 2 is going to be a much tougher round for some of these teams, even the higher scoring teams in round 1.
Yeah. And it's definitely going to be fire. And we're going to talk more about like individual and team performances. But I just want to say a couple of things about the overall round before we get to that. So 6 different teams reached 100 points, which was the most in a single round in NCAA women's tournament history. And those teams were UConn, South Carolina, Notre Dame, Tennessee, Texas, and LSU. There are 2 double-digit seeds still dancing, 2 10-7 games with the 10 seed winning. The first time since women's NCAA tournament, tourney expanded to 64 teams in 1994, that no team seeded 11 or lower have won a game in the round of 64. So a little bit about what we talked about, why it was kind of middle of the road. Like it just, it was what it was supposed to be. It unfolded in the way that it was supposed to. So there were a couple of upsets, which kudos to them. Can't wait to see how they fare moving forward. But, we just need a little bit more spice on our trail mix moving forward. Yeah. So let's talk about, individual teams and performances that stood out to us. Now, South Carolina, let's just open it up with that. 66 points off the bench sets an NCAA tournament record, made 43 of 67 field goals. Tennessee Tech coach, the Tennessee Tech coach said, if they shoot the basketball like that the rest of the way, they're going to be almost impossible to beat. When you watch South Carolina, what were your thoughts? Because I had just one in that, dang, they good. They're so good.
Like, period. What else is there to say? You look at 66 points off the bench is like, we could take two teams from the first round combined and we might not get to 66 points in like the whole, like the game over, that like final score, final book. That's wild that you get that. And again, we know that in South Carolina is going to get a team that they should be able to beat, right, on paper. But that's wild. And also it goes to what I was talking about, right? That there are other things on the line than just the initial win for some teams. A South Carolina team, obviously, getting that confidence that you have your reserve players that are getting minutes in the NCAA tournament and that they can provide that for your team. Dawn Staley's got to be happy about that. And yeah, they're dangerous.
They're absolutely dangerous. I don't think they were necessarily meaning to do that, but the first game was a statement of like, we are the number one overall, regardless of what you want to say. They showed, yeah. And they
I was
showed
just
that,
looking at that. Two starting.
Listen, South Carolina got 2 starting fives. You are not wrong. You are not wrong. When you have an answer to everything and you have people that are coming off the bench that are essentially not the same players, but they can satisfy the same things, like, boom, I'm going to get you here and there. Like, it's so scary. Like, playing them, how do you even do a scouting report? How do you even prepare? Because there's really not an answer to what they have. And it's just amazing to see. I think, that loss that they had to UConn was startling for a lot of people. And I think especially to the team, because they have been playing amazing basketball since then. And they have just been getting better and better and better, which almost seems impossible based on, the numbers that you see and the play that you see night in and night out. But it's happening. It's happening. And it's happening at the right exact time, too.
That's it. Scary stuff.
Man. Well, I just talked about a game that kind of woke South Carolina up and has them on this amazing trajectory. But let's talk about UConn. 66 points in the first half against Arkansas State. When I watched this game, I mean, not even their best first half performance, which this is wild. It's not even the best first half performance in the NCAA tournament. They had 90 plus in 2019. I mean,
that wasn't even that long ago.
That wasn't that long ago. And when you look at that, I'm obviously the numbers were just staggering, but also the depth of what they have. Paige Beckers, I'm not saying she was all playing alone last year or anything of that. There were obviously players who were contributing. But now you have Sarah Strong. Now you have AZ Fudd, who is back and in full force, and they are just going. They are going. They are healthy. They dealt with major injuries last year. AZ said in a presser afterwards, as long as we're playing our best, and I'm paraphrasing, but as long as we're playing our best basketball, nobody can beat us. And we saw that. We saw that.
I mean, it's scary that you have two programs that are effectively pacing women's basketball as far as what the new standard is. UConn's been doing it for a while and are now trying to reach a national and win a national championship again. Dawn Staley, obviously, and the Gamecocks have been there. They're, looking to do it again. But the fact that both are coming into the tournament with that history, with that pedigree, right? And are playing some of their best basketball, that's scary stuff, man. That's really scary, scary stuff. And I think UConn, I was a little bit worried about some of their consistency, or exactly what you're talking about. Were other players going to be able to step up? They have found their stride. It can be tough. And I think people are critical of them coming out of a Big East conference that when they're playing regular season games are not the ACC games. They're not Big Ten. They're not SEC type opponents that then they will see in the tournament, but they know that and they came prepared, obviously.
They definitely did. And I think one thing I love to see, and I felt like I saw more than any other game that I watched, is they were just having fun.
Yes.
They were out there playing and having fun. And they also have this mission to not only get a championship for the entire team, but also for Paige. And that is really going to drive them in a lot of different ways. I don't care what anyone says. Paige Beckers means so much to everybody on that team.
Yeah.
They want her to get a chip, and that is going to guide them like far, that power and kind of like that drive behind it. It means something, and it's definitely a part of what they're doing. Mm-hmm. Well, we're going to see. I mean, it was fun to watch, and I'm definitely looking forward to watching them play again. Now, we're going to talk about some individual players that, really had some a standout game for their first tournament game this year. And that would be Georgia Amore. I really want to talk about her with Kentucky. 34 points, matched the most by a Kentucky player in a tourney game, scored 23 points in the first half on 9 of 13 shooting, including 5 of 6 on 3-point attempts, and also had 8 assists. She was out there balling, and she was so much fun to watch.
This is a player that Kenny Brooks brought over for a reason, right? Knows her game, knows her leadership. And that has been an anchor for this Kentucky program who in their own way, but like I was saying about UConn, has had to step into how they want to play basketball this season. And I think we've seen that throughout the regular season, that they've been able to do that. And they go the way Georgia goes. So to see her get a game like this, to be able to lead this team, show and guide this team how to do it when it comes to the big stage, you want to see that if you're a Kentucky fan, for sure.
Well, they definitely saw it, and they're one of the teams that is really dangerous to me. And one of the reasons is because of her. She is not there to lose. She is there to ball out. And when you have that kind of passion, oftentimes the team is going to follow that, and they're going to feel it, and they're going to, follow suit. And so, I mean, just on the strength, and there's other reasons, but on the strength of having her, they're one of my teams to look out for
That's
sure.
It. What's that line?
Yeah.
Remember the Titans? Attitude reflect leadership. That's it. And then that is with Kentucky, that it's a good positive attitude. It's the right kind of swag coming in. So there
Absolutely.
You go. Attitude reflect leadership, and Amore's got it.
Period. Well, somebody else who was balling out today was Sarah Tibiasu from Maryland. I mean, single-handedly. I mean, want to talk about somebody who sparked the energy, single-handedly put Maryland in the win column against Norfolk State, because that was a good game. Yeah, but they didn't. Yeah, didn't. I mean, because Norfolk State came and said, "We about to play, so
let's go.
You want?"
Lace them up.
Yeah, and I love those games, so it was a fun one to watch as well. But she finished with 22 points, hit 6 of 8 from the 3-point, and the entire Spartans team had just 7 threes. I mean, she was a transfer, came to make her mark, certainly did, and was the A10 player of the year last year. Mm-hmm. When I tell you I'm a huge fan, she made me a fan of hers today. And I should have been before. Let's be clear.
But now it's good. It's good.
I do know now. Well, we've talked about teams that have excelled, and we've talked about individual players, but let's talk about the freshmen, because when you come into this tournament, you're playing for the first time. I'm sure it can be a little nerve-wracking. It's a big stage to be on, but these freshmen, they stepped up to the plate in a really, really big way to make a name for themselves. So let's start with Joyce Edwards on South Carolina. 22 points, 5 rebounds, 2 assists, 2 steals. Her first ever NCAA game. There's a lot of players that have on that team that have been many times to the tournament, but she hadn't, and she stepped up in a big way. We talked about how deep the South Carolina bench was, and she led the Gamecocks in scoring off the bench. So huge there. I mean, what are your thoughts on Joyce Edwards as she absolutely crushed her first NCAA game?
Yeah, I mean, these are great numbers for someone who is considered a star of their team, right? I mean, once you start getting to 20 plus points in an NCAA tournament, that's huge. I think also players can make a name for themselves by what they can do on both sides of the ball. And it's getting the rebounds and the steals, gaining and winning extra possessions for your team. That's critical. So that's what stood out to me from Edwards and her stat line.
Well, definitely a standout in Tajiana Roberts from Louisville was a standout as well. But let me tell you something that was very interesting. She definitely had a great first tournament game, 16 points, 2 rebounds, and 2 steals. But she said that she learned how to play basketball on YouTube. She said that she learned how to play basketball on YouTube. You can literally learn anything off of YouTube. Anything. And then after that, joined the San Diego Boys and Girls Club Rec League at 9 years old. So literally on YouTube. I'm not mad at it. I'm about to learn some stuff. What do I need to learn still? Because I'm about to hop on YouTube and learn it so I can be a star like her. But had an amazing game. We wanted to definitely shout her out. And there are 2 other people that I wanted, but I was wondering if there was somebody that you wanted to highlight as I'm sitting here just rattling off all the people that I
love it. I mean, I know we have, like you said, we have 2 more. I think one's pretty obvious, but I'm actually going to go to Iowa because Iowa, I think, is such an interesting team. They were interesting regular season team, interesting tournament team. And then, they have Ava Heiden came in, set a career high, 15 points, came as a spark off of the bench, and has been a player that, again, has been finding her stride, finding her confidence, finding where she fits into this Iowa team. And the fact that we have coaches like Jan Jensen at Iowa that are having the confidence that have prepared some of their players to get into the tournament, get into tournament games early in the tournament, I think is going to pay huge dividends. So shout out to Ava, shout out to Iowa. I mean, they have gone a little under the radar, especially comparative to the last 4 years. I wonder why. I think it's another Caitlin, with a C this time, right?
Yeah.
But shout out to Ava for sure.
Yeah, shout out to Ava and shout out to Taylor Stremlow too, that also had 10 points in that game, a fellow Iowa freshman. And I just know as a center, I played center back in the day when I played. And when I was watching this game, I got up and I stood up because they were just dominating. I was so proud and I was pumped because I love to see it. But you know why they were probably so pumped up? Okay, yeah, being in your first tournament game, but also they have a bus driver rather, named Z. And when Z, come on, shout out to Z. And she gave them a pre-game pep talk that would get anyone up and ready to go. Like, I don't know if we have what Caitlin Clark said, but she basically was like, I would run through a wall after hearing this. Like, let's go. And if you have not seen it, you can go to our Instagram page. We have it posted. She was absolutely phenomenal. I was trying to think, like, what can I go do now just in my regular life? Like, wash the dishes extra fast, like go run my mile extra fast. Like, what can I do?
What I'm saying. And I love that she took them back. She was like, do y'all remember trying to be on this team? Do y'all remember? She's like, because if y'all lose, hang it up. She's like, retire. I was like, dang, that's a little harsh. And then she goes on to say, it's about to be some problems. It's about to be some pressure. Listen, I don't know who's responsible because, women's basketball just got the hashtag March Madness a little while ago. But y'all need to, come on, cut Z a check because that needs to be a slogan. It's about to be some problems. It's about to be some pressure.
Listen, with all due respect to the Aura man, if he can get $100K in NIL deals, we need to get Z some money. Like, come on, get Z some money because she needs all the NIL. Give her some money, okay? Because she got us pumped over here. We about to go play in the tournament. Okay, Yeah, like I almost have to turn this off right now and go play some basketball, and I haven't played in a long time.
Make sure we
But hook
stretch
her up.
first. That's it. That's it.
Listen, well, somebody who was definitely playing some great basketball was Sarah Strong. She's the last person we want to, there was a lot of freshmen who balled out, but she definitely balled out, and she looked like she had been there for years when you're watching her play. She just looked like, freshman who? Like, she's looked that way all year. So 20 points in her first NCAA tournament game, 13 points in the first quarter, finished 9 of 10. For field goals, her 12th 20-point game of the season, behind Beckers at 14 and Maya Moore for 14, wow, for the most by a freshman in UConn history over the last 25 seasons, and added 12 rebounds, 5 assists, 5 blocks in 21 minutes. Insane.
Just Sarah Strong has been phenomenal. And even when I was still trying to figure out this UConn team, I never had any doubts about Sarah Strong. Confident, poised. It's almost like, she comes from a family that has a little bit of experience doing some things on the court.
Just slightly. Just slightly.
A little bit.
We actually, I don't know if you saw it, but on We Need to Talk, we had her mom on, which, nice. I mean, it was so good. It was so good. And if you don't know who her mother is, I'm going to leave this as like a cliffhanger. You got to go to our page to see it, because we have it posted on there, and it's a great moment, and you'll understand why Sarah Strong is so good after you go and check that out. So make sure you do that. Well, we could talk about players all day. We could talk about teams all day, but we have to talk about some debate that has been happening. And that is the Notre Dame debate. Okay. Dun, dun, dun. Well, there's been a lot of discussion that, they were up by 40 and they were still playing their starters. And people had issue with this. I have my thoughts, but why don't you kick us off on if you agree or disagree that they should they have pulled their starters since they were up by 40?
Yeah, this is tough. All right, I'm gonna tell you, like, this is the former, very, very, very former athlete in me. I was falling till them wheels fell off. You know what I'm saying? Like, I didn't care if it was senior day. I didn't care if we was losing by 50. I'm good, coach. Now keep me in this game. You feel me? So I just think that there are certain athletes that ruining or interrupting a cadence when you don't have to can be detrimental, because some of us go into a mode that the off button don't exist for at least 40 minutes. You know what I'm saying? Like, and then we will figure out if we got overtime or what, but don't mess with it. So I come from that type of mentality. That being said, I think you also have to look at, your team. Are you a team that happens to be injured a lot? Is your player injured a lot, etc.? But for Notre Dame, and why I trust what they wanted to do, again, didn't like how they were playing coming into the tournament. They did experiment with rotations. And so this is something that's key. It's not just that the starters played, but the combinations, the personnel and the assignments that they had. They were very much utilizing that time that they had together to work on some things. Niele Ivey and the coaching staff, I think, told them, now show us. Okay. They said, show us in game 1 what we taught you to do when you show up, when you pull up in your green nails, and let's act like we're Notre Dame again. And that's what they did. So I can't really be mad.
Yeah, I can't be mad either. And I'm very curious to hear what you guys think too. So, drop your opinions about this in the chat, because it was a hot conversation after that game. But what I will say is this: in addition to the different rotations, and obviously they didn't have a great end to the season, we were all wondering what they would look like, coming into the tournament. And we got to see, which I was actually I liked what I saw. I will say that. But you also have to knock that dust off, because they they hadn't played in a long time. They had some time off in between. And I hear that they had some really, heavy, intense practices to get ready, which they should, but practice is different than games, And so when you get in there and you're looking at these different rotations and you're looking at the players and how they're playing, and you also want them to get into game mode as much as they can.
That's it.
You can only do that while you're playing.
That's it.
And so if Coach Ivy wants to have them out there the entire game to be able to do that, then do that. I think it's really about what is going to be best for your team and what is going to be best for them moving forward through the entire tournament. You're not just playing one game. You're playing multiple games to get to a goal of a championship. So if she needed to have those particular players out there with a 40-point lead or whatever it was specifically, then let her do that. Let her cook, and teams are different too. A lot of people said, well, South Carolina pulled their starting lineup at the start of the third and this and that. They're in a different spot than Notre Dame is.
For sure.
They're in a different spot. And if they need to have their players out there, which it looks like that's what they wanted to, and that's what they executed to do, then let them rock. This is a long tournament. It's not just about one game.
Exactly. I mean, again, I just really think that having good flow, having confidence, going in is huge. So, I mean, I said it in our chat, right? As we were getting ready for the show, I was like, hey, insert sports performance drink sponsorship here and drink some of that thing and get after it, get your recovery, get your game day nap, and you'll be all right. Y'all, most of y'all, 19, 20, 21, 22, y'all be all right.
You're going to be okay. Well, one person that I do want to mention that I hope is okay is Olivia Miles. During the game, Olivia was injured, rolled her ankle, and they're going to attempt for her to play in Michigan. But what are your thoughts on, if she's not able to come back or if she has to sit for a while, what are your thoughts moving into those games for Notre Dame?
Yeah, that's tough because, we were talking about the taxing of just having minutes, right? And if that could be an impact on performance. That's a different conversation than now moving into an injury, something where you're rolling something or we've seen that throughout the first round of the tournament. Olivia Miles not being healthy, we've seen that version of Notre Dame, right? We saw that with them last year. So to be able to now navigate knowing how hard they worked while they had some time away from basketball, knowing that they weren't meeting their expectations and goals coming into the tournament, it's going to have to be another reset. And they're going to have to do that on the fly if Olivia Miles can't go. So while it does bring another wrinkle into this Notre Dame team, we also know that, especially when there's so much on the line, that teams are going to rally around their teammates. They've been in the trenches, so to speak, together all season. And, now they are on the biggest mission of the season. So, it's next player up. And again, we know that Notre Dame was working on rotations. They were working on getting everyone, including their walk-ons, minutes. So that next person up should be ready.
They should be. And I think that's one, and I hate to say it around injury because I never want a player to be injured. But I think that's one of the magical things about this tournament is when someone has to step up and they get it done in a beautiful way. You may not play the minutes that like an Olivia Miles would play all season, but you're still in those practices. You're still doing the things that you need to do in the weight room to get you ready. You're doing all of those things to be ready for a moment, to be ready to step up like this in this tournament. And the heart that they've had, like we've said, we didn't like the end of their season, but the heart that they had all season is there, and I just know that someone will step up in a big way if needed. If needed, I feel that for Notre Dame, and I want that for them.
Right? They had a player come off the bench, get a double-double, so
yeah.
This is where your legacy, this is where legends can be made. And no, it's not just those who are playing, however many 30 some odd minutes a game. So I love that.
Yeah. I absolutely love that too. But what I didn't really love, and I'm kind of giving away my opinion here, is that there was somebody on, I don't know what you want to call it, Twitter or X, whatever you want to say. I'm going to call it Twitter because that's what it originally was. But Mick3 McDaniel said women's March Madness doesn't start till the Elite Eight. And I completely disagree, but I'm going to let you start because, bruh.
What we just spend the last 40 minutes talking about then? what we doing? Listen, Linda, listen. So I think I understand where the conversation could potentially go from this comment. That being said, I don't agree with it because we have seen teams be able to, again, put on great performances. And drama to me isn't only just buzzer beaters. Obviously, there is drama when people are putting just a thrashing on their opponent. There's drama in if people were running their mouths before the tournament and now maybe got walking back a little bit after the tournament. So I'm here for all that. I'm here for all that. You know, you got teams making it to the tournament for the first time. So I think also if you miss out on things before the Elite Eight, then you could miss out on some of the drama that's coming up that we might be talking about later. So I'm a hard pass. I'm selling. I'm not buying. Y'all can keep that.
Yeah, JG is right. Mick is just commenting or trolling to feel included in the combo, but you're not included, Mick, or however you say your MIK. You're not included. But let me say this. These teams fight to get to this tournament. They play all year long to get to this tournament. They literally work day in and day out to make it to the NCAA tournament. And for you to disrespect them by saying that it doesn't start until the Elite Eight, it starts the moment the first game starts. It starts the moment that every single one of those women who have worked so hard to be there walk on the court. So do not disrespect a team who has fought so hard to get there. There are programs that it takes them years to get there. There are coaches that have coached their entire lives to get to this moment. So do not disrespect them by saying that it doesn't start until the Elite Eight because it starts when the tournament starts, period.
Hello.
It really made me mad. I'm going to be mad about that, Mick. And I don't get mad like that very easily.
No, you in danger, Mick.
Meet me outside. No, I'm just playing. But literally, you know, we have all these stats that Emma put together, which are so amazing. Like so many games that, you know, have been stellar throughout the years, but it just all falls to, I don't care if there isn't one exciting game for the first two rounds or whatever the case may be. It starts when it starts because these people have fought so hard to be there.
And that's on that.
That is on that. So, sorry, I got worked up.
I was like, well, preach on, sister, preach on.
Sometimes you got to preach, you know?
Hey.
And that's on that. But we have talked about the debates. We have talked about the tweets. We have talked about the first round, but let's look ahead to the second round. Mm-hmm. What matchups? I mean, there's so many to look forward to, but is there like one matchup that you're circling to watch?
I mean, I hinted at this. I don't know if you picked up what I was throwing down, but you know, if you're not watching to the Elite Eight, you missing all the drama with Hailey Van Lith and all the X's she picking up in the NCAA tournament. You feel
me? Come on, you missing out.
You missing out. Like we can't even talk to you about that because you ain't even watching. You ain't even watching how Hailey Van Lith once again is gonna go up against Louisville, her former team, in the NCAA tournament. This time with TCU, who's been on a little bit of a magical run. To your point, the tournament starts when it starts, and TCU put some respect on what TCU has been able to do. And that's definitely one that I think y'all should tap in for.
And, like, I don't want to make it about like her old team. She's playing her old team, but I don't care, how old you get. If you're playing anyone from your former team and there's not a lot of players that she played with on that team. I do want to note that. However, you're going to get up no matter what, especially
Oh,
if you're
absolutely.
HBO.
Oh,
So,
absolutely.
so that is going to be, Ole Miss versus Baylor is the toss up. JG, you are correct on that.
Mhm.
Definitely one to watch without a doubt. And I know for me, I'm looking forward to West Virginia versus North Carolina.
Mm.
I don't know if you guys remember, but last year West Virginia gave Iowa a run for their money. Like, I want to say the game was tied with 2 minutes and 55 seconds left. They were tied, like they were poised to send Iowa home last year. And we saw, what that team, how that team was. And so
Mhm.
they're really hungry to advance. Their coach has said, we are advancing until we can advance no more. Like, we're going for all of this.
That's
I
it.
love the energy that they have. I absolutely love, they had a great first game, and the Mountaineers also secured a program tournament record with 17 steals. They're just really hungry for it. I love the energy that they're playing with. This is, they're ready to go. And
Yeah.
so I think that they're going to give North Carolina a run for their money.
Yeah.
And I'm really excited to watch that.
I like that. I also am curious to see what's going to happen with the Oregon Ducks and the Duke Blue Devils, because Oregon, and I should have picked them as a a team that could go for an upset. But I think it was because I was having trouble defining upset with Oregon. And then I also have Duke as a dark horse. And some people are like, how you gonna a 2 seed as a dark horse? But hear me out though. Because at the top, a dark horse to be able to win a championship, because at the tippy top of women's basketball is still a pretty elite crowd. It's a wider crowd, or a larger crowd than it has been in a handful of years, but it's still an elite crowd. And Duke is a team that I'm trying to figure out if they ready to show up to the party. You know what I'm saying? Like, are they ready, or they still gotta practice the dance a few more times, so to speak?
Mm, definitely. It's crazy because we're talking about all these, games to watch, but I feel like all of them are going to be good,
Yeah.
really
The
and
whole
truly.
slate. Watch the whole slate.
Yeah, just watch them. Why not get that multi-view and go to work? But man, let's look at some of the other people on the list. Tennessee versus Ohio State, Iowa versus Oklahoma. Oklahoma looks to advance to the first Sweet 16 since 2013. Both really have to dominate on the glass for sure.
Mhm.
And it will be a battle, but I'm eager to see the post play as well. I'm always looking for that kind of play.
Years
But
out there,
yeah,
man.
there's so many teams to watch, and definitely know that we're going to have another show that we will, break all of them down as well. But let's talk about some big questions that are facing teams. We already kind of talked about this a little bit, but we can go more in depth. USC, kind of talked about them starting off slow.
A little bit.
And they only had JuJu and Kiki. So really, technically, if you look at it, and then JuJu is injured.
Mhm.
So when you look at kind of like all of those things that they're facing and that they need to change, what do they need to do to get to that championship game?
This is tough because I think that the program, they have options, right? And it has been the story has been JuJu, and Kiki, but there are also times where the story, it starts and ends with JuJu. And so one of the things that I had been saying early in the season is that this is a good test for JuJu Watkins in her leadership, her ability to be able to bring folks along with her in what she's trying to do. And that's not to say that let me make it clear that I'm not saying that she doesn't play a team game. Team game, that's a completely different conversation. She's not out here just looking for shots for herself. She does pass the ball. She does engage in defense. And there are conversations, whether they're verbal, nonverbal, whatever. You know, you were a baller. There are some times where you need to lean on that one teammate, whether they just say one thing to you and you get right. Those are the
Yep.
things that matter. And those are the things where JuJu and Kiki need to be able to do what they do best and light that fire so that everyone on that roster is doing what they do best.
Absolutely. And I mean, if they were to, let's say specifically, if we're looking at, USC and UConn, even though I don't think they should, because everyone's looking forward to that potential matchup. But honestly, they're going up against Mississippi State in this next game. And we just talked about them upsetting Cal. And they looked incredibly strong, incredibly poised.
Physical. They were
throwing
they were throwing that weight.
They were, and they had great defense, 15 steals, improved their shooting to 50% in the second half. And they literally have nothing to lose. And so, yeah, we can talk about, what they need to do against UConn, looking ahead. But I think we really need to talk about what they need to do against Mississippi State. JG said USC has to find a third scoring option. The UConn team they could potentially face in the Elite Eight is not the team USC beat in December, and that's real. Definitely not the team, but also Mississippi State is a team that is ready for a USC. They want to take them on, and I really truly believe that, there's a lot of talk about this USC UConn matchup, and I'm excited. I hope we do see it, but I also think that USC has to be looking out for Mississippi State. They really do.
Well, you literally have to win the next game, so it's something that we heard Corey Close from UCLA saying is that every game for them is another opportunity to reset their season at 1-0. And why is that important? Because this is a UCLA team that we saw at number 1. They're taking the mentality of let's go back to the start of our season. What were we focused on? What was our preparation like? How did we show up to the gymnasium to make sure we could earn a 1-0 start? When Corey said that, I was like, fam, that's right. You better get those mental gymnastics in place. Reset after every game. You have to, because if you're thinking ahead, then you have literally taken your eye off the task at hand. And people get got in a tournament like that. That's why they call it a little loopy.
Listen. Whoo, mental gymnastics, baby. But LOL Predictions has a question for us before we wrap here. LSU or NC State if they meet in the Sweet 16?
Ooh, okay. I like this question. I really do. My gut right now, I'm going to go with my gut. I like how LSU is playing right now. I think that they got some key pieces back. Those key pieces, the LSU was able to hold it down while Anissa Morrow, while Flau'jae were getting right. I do think this is a focused LSU team. They took some bumps, and I think they feeling some kind of way about it. And we know that this is a LSU team that knows how to step up in the NCAA tournament. NC State is a really solid team. I like that they can be patient in running their offense in particular. That being said, I'm just going to give the edge to LSU. I don't know about what you're saying, sis.
Yeah, I can't disagree at all. I agree, because we were all kind of wondering what LSU was going to look like, especially with the injuries that they had coming into this. And it didn't look like they were missing a step. It did not. It did not. And so when I look at those two teams, NC State, the game that they had wasn't as great as I thought it would be. I actually thought it was going to be the biggest upset for a while there while watching it. They just didn't have the energy that we're used to seeing them with, especially in that first half. And not to say that that's going to translate to the rest of the tournament, but I just really liked what I saw from LSU coming out the gate. So I would lean that way for that as well.
Yeah.
So we cannot wrap this show, Erica, without saying what our favorite moments of the first round were. And I'm going to throw it to you first. I have a lot of favorite moments, but mine is a little bit personal. But go ahead.
Oh,
I'll
wow.
kick
Okay.
it to you.
Favorite moment. Oh man. I I don't know that I have a favorite moment from what I was able to take in. I think what's coming to mind right now, and this doesn't really have to do with the score, but I was able to go to A10 Media Day. And so spoke to Vanessa Blair Lewis and her team. And they're just certain coaches that really lean into that. Yes, this is a competition and it's an opportunity to grow minds, to grow and help foster, um, you know, and empower young women. And to see George Mason be able to dance in the tournament for the first time, knowing that it's a team and a coach that is going through a lot, very difficult things with health, with family. I thought they were a really great story to be able to follow. We've been able to see them on CBS a few times, and so I think that's what stands out to me, pulling away just from everything happening between the lines.
Yeah, and also I just want to say you had an amazing feature with her that we actually featured on We Need to Talk, and I believe it's on CBS Sports, the CBS Sports YouTube page. So definitely go check that out because it was fantastic, and our hearts do go out to her because she was dealing with something very personal. Her father is in hospice, and we just want to send our prayers and wrap our arms around her and her whole family during that time. But she definitely did her dad proud. So I would also say for me personally, and I said I wasn't going to talk about her again because I don't want to be like that person who's always talking about this one player, but I just want to say that I'm super proud of Jordan Lee on Texas's team. She started for them tonight in her very first NCAA tournament appearance. Super proud of her. She is a family friend. I used to babysit her. Yes, I dated myself and I'll do it again. But that was my favorite moment just personally because to see where she is, come from and to see her play and start in her first tournament game was something special that I'll never forget. So
absolutely.
Shout out to you, Jordan Lee.
That's dope. That's super dope.
Yeah, definitely dope. And you know what else has been dope? Having this show with you, Erica. It has been a pleasure, and it has been a pleasure to be here on this late night episode of We Need to Talk Now. Thank you guys so much for tapping in and asking all the questions. And, make sure that not only are you tapping into this episode, but you're tapping into all of our socials down here and connecting with us on always. Like, comment, share, subscribe, do all the things because we're going to be doing a lot of these shows moving forward for the women's final or towards the women's final four. And we'll also be in Tampa for that. We're going to have another live recap on Monday to recap the second round. So make sure that you're tapped in for that. We're also going to have a QR code that we're going to show at the end of the episode that will take you right to everything. So you know exactly how to tap in with us. But as for right now, thank you guys so much for joining for another episode of We Need to Talk Now, presented by AT&T.